Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So like I said, it's all about freedom. It used to be about liberty. And you know, if you've listened to this program long enough, for the longest time, I've been talking about the Lochner era. Taking us back 100 years to labor conditions that were deplorable. If you were willing and desperate enough to work for poverty wages in horrible conditions, that was your choice. It was your liberty. And they started using freedom instead of liberty. So this whole freedom concept, not surprising to get tacked on to the truckers thing up north and, well, the right wing who seems to know nothing about it. It seems to be their talking point. While they're talking about freedom, they're trying to, shut people up everywhere else, which I find kind of interesting. And here to share some thoughts on the topic of freedom and our crazy right-wing friends, I've asked Maya May to come talk with us. She's the co-host of We're Speaking over at the Lincoln Project TV network there. Maya, thanks for taking time for us.
Thank you for having me, Rick.
So freedom, when you think freedom, where's your mind go? Freedom.
Well, because every time I hear freedom, I'm like, freedom to do what? Like, what have we really been doing with our freedom anyway? Like, have we been doing much with it in the past years?
Well, I would like to believe that I have a little bit, but you're right. What is freedom and what more do you want? And look, I listen to my right-wing friends, and it's this idea that they can do whatever to whomever, however, wherever, whenever, that it's all about them. And this is a very selfish ideology, and it goes back to the Reagan era of, we're all individuals and hooray for me, and the one with the most toys when dies wins, greed is good. It goes back to that era, so I'm not surprised we're where we are.
Well, and I've been reading more this year because I've had some time to sit down and read. And I'm reading a book about the difference between our society and other societies. Like in America, we're very individualistic. It's about the individual and not necessarily about community. And I heard you, speaking earlier about that, where it's like, we're supposed to be working together towards the common good. That's why we wear the mask. It's decency. It's common decency. And we've completely lost that. It's like, no, but I don't want to wear a mask. And so what we basically have right now is, a bunch of us throwing temper tantrums. Like we have grown people acting like 2-year-olds all over the place. And it's interesting because rather than our leaders trying to bring people together, they're just kind of stoking the flames of that. And so it's like, where are we headed as a country if we can't even agree on common good when it comes to our public health? It's not like the people who have been dying aren't actually dying. Like there's legitimate visceral death. We're seeing, healthcare workers getting burnt out, not to mention all of the effects of long-term COVID that we're hearing about as well. So all of this is very real, and yet we're fighting against kind of these facts that aren't real.
It's real to you, it's real to me, it's real to us, it's real to the families who are affected. It's not real to them because they're used to alternative facts. They're used to living in an alternative reality that, people don't really die from COVID, Maya. They die from something else, and COVID was just there. So COVID doesn't kill anyone. It's just, I love the logic because then it gives you the ability to wipe everything else away. Because, it was something else. It wasn't COVID. Because, a guy driving a truck is now a mortician. A guy driving the truck is now an epidemiologist and a virologist all in one. Because they heard it on the radio.
Yes, they did their research. They grabbed that microscope. I actually have my daughter's microscope in my house, and I've been doing my own research this entire time. And I can concur that COVID is real. So there you go.
Wouldn't you really, honestly and truthfully, wouldn't you like to see some of these people's reading lists when they say, I've still got to do my research? Wouldn't you really like to see what it is they're reading?
I truly, truly would, and I'm guessing it's what they're clicking. More importantly, it's something that could be put up overnight, and I think that's the problem with a lot of the information out there is it's hard to distinguish what's been written on a blog by a 16-year-old in a basement somewhere while he's playing video games trying to have fun versus actual legitimate information. You know, media literacy has not been taught in a long while, and I think now we're seeing the effects of that.
Yeah, I'm going to steal Trey Crowder, a friend of the show, Trey Crowder's line that doing your research isn't watching YouTube videos while on the can.
No, I mean, it's a kind of research, I suppose,
But here, the thing that gets me is while we're talking about freedom, and look, we all believe in freedom. We all believe that we should have the right to speak our minds, that we have freedom of speech. I think you and I would agree that there are limits to that. You have the right to say and do whatever you want until it harms me. I think, as Justice Black said, you have the right to flail your fists until they touch the tip of my nose. I think we would all agree on that. But yet now I'm looking around at the punishment part of this. And as I said at the beginning, what's frightening to me is that now the radical right is these folks who terrorized our country on January 6th and their ilk are now talking about punishing us in the aftermath as we come out of the pandemic. And they're going to do it in various ways, either in stores or in person or legislatively. And I look at this group, PEN America, who's been tracking these educational gag orders. And to me, this is a big part of this. And this is, kind of like a triple threat, if you will. Because one, you get to go after and harass people that you didn't like teachers. Two, you get to destroy public education, so you can privatize that. And then three, oh boy, we can really make people angry and cause more division. So it seems like, the triple hat of horrible.
Yeah, truly it is. And it's things that, I keep going back to the fact that if you were to go up to somebody 5 years ago and say, hey, by the way, in 2022, they're going to be talking about putting cameras in classrooms and tracking what teachers are saying and creating bills to ban what people are reading, you would say, no, that's impossible. This is America. We believe in freedom. Like that would be what you'd think we'd say. And so to me, what's deeply, deeply concerning is that we're acting as if we're not all in the same boat, and you've got half the country poking holes like in this boat. And so we're sinking. And I'm wondering when the sanity is going to come back. And I see, I talk to Gen Z a lot, and they see right through it. They're so savvy. They watch what's happening. They don't like to be told what to do or what not to read more than anyone else. And they've been going through it. They're the ones who've truly, truly been suffering in the last couple of years, not being able to have the kind of experiences in the classroom that they were having. Right. And so on top of it, the adults are acting crazy.
Yeah, no, look, I'm hopeful. The only thing that gives me hope is that the younger generation does get it. And the hope is that they show up come election time to vote. Because historically, young people do not vote. As much as we want to say, oh, they're the future and all that, they're not the now. They're not the now in showing up to vote. And they gotta, if you want me to give you credit for being savvy and smart, that's follow through. That gets my attention.
So historically, they didn't show up to vote, but historically, we didn't have reality show people as presidents either. And so times are changing, Rick, and both in the midterms as well as in 2020, they actually came out in numbers that were on par with older generations. So they are truly understanding what's at stake. And a lot of us, we think they're on TikTok, just, doing choreographed dances and things, but no, they're informed. They're so much more informed than we even give them credit for. My daughter's 14. She gets annoyed with me because of the stuff that I don't know. She's like, what do you mean you didn't know that? How did you not know this? And I'm like, I don't watch 30-second videos on TikTok all day long. That's why I don't know
I have a job.
Yes, exactly.
No, and look, I'm hoping that's the reality. I'm hoping they get out the vote and there's some hope for the future. But I'm watching what's going on right now. And as we've been talking about, these educational gag orders kind of have me freaked out because, this, like the one in Oklahoma is probably the most, Oklahoma, Utah, these are the most crazy. The one in Oklahoma says that if you do anything that is against my sincerely held belief, that I can then sue the teacher, not the school, not the teachers union, not the county, not the city, the individual teacher for $10,000 per incident per person. So if you're in a classroom, an overcrowded classroom with 50 kids in it, and a teacher says something that all of the parents go, well, we're offended, and hey, I can make 10 grand out of it. She's going to leave teaching or he's going to leave teaching in a heartbeat.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, really, right now is when we're going to decide to go after teachers, when we're going to punish teachers after everything that they've been through. And once again, it's like what we were seeing in Texas. It's like where you're weaponizing citizens against each other, right? And this is all, again, like we know, it's to stoke fear. It's to try to create disorder so that, the far right can come in and say, only we can fix it. We're going to bring order to all of this chaos. So they're creating chaos on purpose.
Absolutely. In fact, I just talked about this yesterday. I was driving in the car, and on the radio comes one of those breaking news, big news. Pennsylvania's running out of teachers. How are our children get teachers in the classroom? Solutions at 5. And they're all the same bad ideas that have been laying around in these think tanks for years, because ultimately, and maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't, I see this as a well-funded, well-organized campaign to destroy public education as its end game. But right now, it's about tearing us apart. And the sad reality is, you said we're divided in half. I don't think we are. I think this is, a minority of people who are well-funded that we've given way too much money to, who are just out to cause trouble and using the dim to do it.
I do think you're right about that, both about the end game and the numbers. I like your numbers. They're more hopeful than mine. But I do think this idea that the end game is to destroy public education by first undermining and destroying our faith in it is definitely happening, because, teachers already don't get paid enough, right?
No, look, you wouldn't get me to be a teacher. They don't get paid enough. They don't get respect. Then they got to put up with oversized classrooms. And look, I grew up in an era where you talk back to a teacher, you got slapped. You can't.
So me too. I went to Catholic school actually, and the nuns beat me all throughout kindergarten, first and second grade, until my parents were like, "Okay, that's enough beatings for our child now. Let's take her out."
We absolutely. My mother was left-handed, taught me to write left-handed. I went to Catholic school. They beat that right out of me. Now I can't write with either hand. And I say this all the time. And if I knew where Sister Mary St. Leo was buried, I would dig her up so I could kill her again. That's how horrible that woman was to me.
I love that we remember our nuns, because for me it was Sister Mary Paschal and Sister Mary Maurice. Those were the ones that beat me the most. So.
And, it could have been any Catholic school. Our Lady of Great Perpetual Motion, Our Lady of Great Pain and Misery, all of that. We went to the same place, so I'm right there with you. You listen to the Rick Smith Show here with Maya May. She's the co-host of We're Speaking over at Lincoln Project TV. You can check out their stuff at lincolnproject.us. We'll get links out on social media how you can do that. So the question then becomes, how do we take this moment? Because there are pockets of organizing going on. I just saw a story today that in blue areas, suburban moms are fighting back against this stuff, and you go, oh boy, that's great. The problem is there isn't billionaire money behind that. Where's the path forward?
I was thinking about this the other day. It feels like, how they say, like, if there is some sort of emergency that you're out in public and you want help, you shouldn't just say somebody call 911. You have to actually point to somebody and say, you call 911. I feel like that's what's happening right now. I feel like all of the billionaires on the left and the progressives are all kind of like, okay, well, we're just waiting for somebody to do something, to get involved, etc. And I think it's at this point, all of us, it has to be a grassroots effort, right? And so groups like these suburban moms, I think they're called Red Wine and Blue. They drink and work together to create better communities for their kids.
And what's wrong with that?
Yes, exactly. I think it's amazing. But groups like that have to be active and reach out and seek that funding with clear plans to put in place. And because we're seeing it on the right, obviously, between the stuff that Turning Point is doing with like the professor watch list. I don't know if you've seen this on their website. It is absolutely mind-boggling to me. It's got a whole field where you can fill out information and report on a teacher. And so they've got millions of dollars in resources to help build their end of things. And it's like, okay, we need the equivalent the opposite, really, equivalent on the other end in order to get out of this, really, truly.
You need to build the infrastructure that the right has built masterfully. Look, I do give credit where credit is due. You look at what the radical right has done. They've built a think tank network all across this country, the state policy network. Every state has at least one bad idea machine. Some have two. They have the Federalist Society, the American Legislative Exchange Council. They've got the county level ones. They've drilled down into school boards now because they've built they've built their infrastructure. And look, all that stuff that went on in Virginia, and you know this as well as anyone, all that stuff was manufactured. They just scared white suburban women to go, oh my God, they're going to teach them about some theory, and we know it's critical. And then they threw the word race in there, and oh my God, hair on fire. People at the school boards losing their minds.
Right. And now look and see where it's gotten them, because now they have a governor who clearly is not prepared to lead his state. And so we're already seeing, blowback from that. But I think at the end of the day, like, people have to realize that if they do not get engaged right now, and especially at the local level, because most people aren't used to having to say, hey, we're going to get organized and go to school board meetings. That is not what your average citizen is doing. But democracy doesn't work unless we actually make it work. And I think what we're seeing is the long-term effects of the lack of civic engagement. Yep. Everybody, it's somebody else's thing to do. It's somebody else. Like, I see so many people who say they're apolitical, and I'm like, just because you choose to not participate in politics doesn't mean the laws of the nation cease to apply to you. It's not like suddenly you cease to exist. And so this idea that you're apolitical, like, no, that you can't be that.
No, I'm with you. So last question I've got for you: the way forward in this is arguably motivating people, but I think Democrats have to act a little urgent. I don't see the kind of hair on fire that you would expect in the moment that I think we would agree we're in difficult times. Do you believe in democracy or don't you? Do you believe in the rule of law or don't you? Do you believe that we should have public education or don't you? These are very clear, cut and dry questions that, I keep having people go, Democrats and Republicans, they're all the same. No, they're not all the same.
Mm-hmm. I think what's happening truly on the Democratic side is that there is a failure to understand how truly mission-driven and evil the right can be. I think everybody has this idea that most people have a sense of morality, and so they can't put themselves in that mindset because it doesn't occur to them that people truly do think like that. And so you have the right that's very mission driven, very organized, well funded. A lot of this has to do with as well as like the white nationalism that has to do with white Christian nationalism.
Yep.
And so you have people on the left, the Democrats, who don't fully understand that, or we have to act like we're on a mission.
There you go. We absolutely do. Maya, I appreciate the time. Great stuff. I look forward to having you back again real soon.
All right. Thanks, Rick.
Good stuff. Quick break. Right back. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show.